right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, during yesterday's game, Charles Davis, who was on the call, mentioned something really cool. So, I guess in the week of lead up, Davis was talking to Jets quarterback coach Charles London, and London mentioned that both John Metchie and Adonai Mitchell have been working extremely hard, of course, in practice, but they're both first to arrive. They're the first guys in the building, and they're also the last to leave. And supposedly, they're trying their hardest to really just grab this opportunity that they have, because quite frankly, John Metchie is not or has not been in a position, Houston, Philly, where he's going to be receiving this much volume, right? Adonai Mitchell, you look at this situation in Indianapolis, right? Michael Pittman was the locked-in wide receiver 1. You have Alec Pierce there as the locked-in wide receiver 2. It's a running team anyway with Jonathan Taylor. And then, of course, you throw on top of it Tyler Warren, who is the, 14th overall pick in this past draft. Of course, he's going to be getting targets in the passing game. So if you go from a situation like that, right, limited volume, limited targets, not really many opportunities to grow on the field on Sundays, to a team like the Jets where it is just completely barren at the position, especially with Garrett Wilson being hurt, you look at just the numbers alone. I'm a big eye test guy, but I do think that the stats are important when they do match the eye test. I mean, if we look at some of these receiving stats, it has been brutal. Absolutely brutal. Just to quickly go through the list here, Josh Reynolds has 101 receiving yards on the season. Allen Lazard has 54 receiving yards on the season. Tyler Johnson, 187. Arian Smith, 47 yards. Metchie, who just showed up a couple of weeks ago, has only had 2 starts, 3 appearances, but one was just kind of like a, we essentially just have to throw you out there for depth purposes. It's not like he was like an actual viable target in that game for just showing up, given the context. John Metchie has 2 touchdowns, 10 catches, 113 receiving yards, which again is not really anything to write home about. But again, given the context, given the quarterback situation right now with the Jets, and looking at the other wide receivers on the team, again, in 2 games, Metchie has more production than Allen Lazard, Josh Reynolds, and Arian Smith in 2 games alone. And to quickly dive in a little bit deeper here with Metchie, this is someone who I 100% want to see back with the Jets next season, right? Obviously a restricted free agent, but I do foresee him being back. And I think a big part of that, again, is the impact so far. And look, it's not like he has 500 receiving yards, 300 receiving yards, 200 receiving yards, or anything crazy. No one is saying the guy's Jamar Chase. No one wants to jump the gun here, but just objectively speaking, looking at what Metchie has done so far with this Jets offense, he has impressed. And I think whenever you're talking, because look, Arian Smith had a whole training camp. Josh Reynolds had a whole training camp, preseason games, minicamp, OTAs. He got the system early. He's been working with Tanner Engstrand. He's had an opportunity to form chemistry with Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor. Tyler John, all these guys. And again, John and AD just showed up. So I think it really comes down to 3 things, right? Whenever you have an instant impact type of player like this who can just show up in the middle of the season, and he's maybe not like a big household name or anything, but he shows up and he instantly starts making an impact. I think one of 3 things, again, could be taking place here. Number 1, the player is either really good, really impressive, and he was just buried on the depth chart, or maybe he wasn't a system fit in his last team. Whatever the case may be, that player is really good. So you're now seeing with increased volume and increase in opportunities, this player is now shining. Number 2, he is a great system fit, right? Tanner Engstrand is looking at Metchie and saying, hey, I like your skill set. I like the pros, the strengths that you bring to the table. I'm going to put those on display. This kind of fits the archetype of what I want in this type of wide receiver. And so we're just seeing this, smooth onboarding process where Metchie's just hitting the ground running. Boom. Again, John Metchie and Mitchell did not have months to pick up the system, months to go work with Fields and Taylor to build chemistry and stuff. No, they're learning on the fly here. And the third possibility is that the room was just so horrible that any sort of like functioning average wide receiver is going to look great. Now, it's probably a combination of a couple of those points. Again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but it's it's nice knowing that Darren Muji pulled off a couple of trades at the deadline with the focus of we are moving on from these players and we are getting tons of first round picks, tons of valuable draft assets, right? Sauce Gardner was not traded for Mitchell. He was traded for the first round picks. Adonai Mitchell was added in, right? Michael Carter, you look at that trade. The main point of that trade was to clear money. It was to move off of Michael Carter. We already have his upgrade. We don't have to invest a free agent contract or a high draft pick or anything in finding the next slot cornerback. No, he's already here in Brownlee, and he's under control for at least the next 3 seasons on a cheap 4th round contract. So let's move Michael Carter. Let's go from a 7th round pick to a 6th round pick. So we're benefiting in the draft. Granted, it's just by a round and we're talking late day 3, but you know what? These picks matter at the end of the day for a bad team. And let's take a swing on John Metchie, a former 2nd round pick, someone who, back in college was ultra productive for Alabama and was projected to go in the 2nd round pick. And of course, he's dealt with a lot early on in his career with, him getting hurt, him having cancer, right? Leukemia, battling back from that. I mean, just a crazy story, right? Crazy story here. And then, of course, being on teams, Houston Texans, Philadelphia Eagles, where there's not really many opportunities to be making that big of an impact. So, again, from Muji's perspective, we're like the point of the trade is draft picks. We're taking swings on these young players. And through 2 games, we've seen, in my opinion, enough flashes to get excited about. I mean, I hate to unfortunately make this comparison here, but look at a guy like Mazi Smith. Kind of same idea here. We're moving on from Quinnen. We add a 1st. We add a 2nd. Awesome. We're clearing a bunch of money for free agency moving forward. And we're taking a swing on Mazi Smith. Up to this point, Mazi Smith has not made that much of an impact positively. You can argue he's actually hurt the team, right? He has not looked all that great. Of course, it's not close the book on him. We're done with him. There's still 6 more games to end the season. Maybe he turns it around. I'm not really expecting the world from Mazi Smith, but just to point out an example here, I can count multiple times where both Mitchell and Metchie have been impressive. I can't say that with Mazi. I can't point to multiple moments where I'm like, this is something that you can build around. I could see this in 2026. This is helping out this player. This is helping out this side of the ball. Whatever it may be. I get that feeling with these wide receivers. I haven't really gotten that with Mazi Smith, and it's no disrespect to Mazi. Again, it's just pointing out an example of, hey, these, swings where you're taking a chance on a player, there is a chance that it doesn't work out. Despite the player being a former high pick and being dominant back at the college level, there's a chance that it doesn't go, it doesn't work out. And it doesn't mean that Adonai and Metchie have arrived on the scene and they're the end all be all that, we don't need any more help at wide receiver. No, not at all. But it's encouraging seeing flashes for throw-ins in the trade, right? The guys that are coming in on the back end of the trade, it's like, whoa, clearing cap is nice. Adding draft picks is nice. But if we can actually get some help, some depth, some talent with these younger players that are working out, that is such a nice bonus. It is such a nice boost for a team that lacks talent and depth. Now with Adonai Mitchell, he's a little bit more interesting, right? Because the numbers aren't as impressive as Metchie so far. And granted, it's only through 2 games, but he has 3 catches for 52 yards. For what it's worth, that is more than Arian Smith, and it's 2 less yards than Allen Lazard. Again, Lazard has 54 receiving yards on the season. But regardless, when you factor in the eye test with Mitchell, from an explosion standpoint, from a route running standpoint, as a vertical deep threat standpoint, size, right, wingspan, catch radius, that whole thing, I mean, he looks like he's just a sleeping giant. If he could get the catches figured out, right, because you're assuming moving forward, the team is going to add some more talent in free agency. You load in another draft class. You upgrade the quarterback position, regardless of who it is. Garrett Wilson's healthy, a healthy, nice boost to the offense. Maybe less pressure put on Mitchell. A full training camp in the fold, a full preseason in the fold, an offseason to work with Tanner Engstrand, an offseason to build chemistry with said new quarterback, whoever that might be. A draft pickup at the top of the draft, a veteran trade acquisition, projecting into the future. I think the future's looking pretty bright for Adonai Mitchell. I really hope. Again, he's had drops. It hasn't been perfect. But right now, I'm not going to shred apart a 23-year-old for having a couple drops in his first game with his new team in a new situation. Fact of the matter is, if the Jets decided to draft Mitchell in that year that he came out, if Joe Douglas made Adonai Mitchell, we had a second round pick that year, or, instead of trading up for Malachi Corley, we traded up for Mitchell instead, I would have been thrilled. We don't have to go back super far to look at pre-draft reports, how he's projected into the NFL. Nobody had the Colts as a fit for Mitchell. It kind of felt like, hey, he's there. BPA approach, let's take him. We don't need him, but let's take him. Maybe he could be our wide receiver 3 if he shows up to camp and just starts dominating. Again, is he a perfect wide receiver? No. Will he maybe have more drops from here on out? Possibly. I'm not going to rule that out. But again, for me, the name of the game from here on out, with 6 games remaining, we play some good teams, we play some bad teams, we play some good defenses, we play some bad defenses. Let's feed the young guys the football. Let's keep on targeting AD. Let's keep on giving John a ton of looks, a ton of passing targets, right? Let's keep on throwing the ball to Mason Taylor. Let's get Arian Smith more involved. Let's phase out, in my opinion, some of these vets that will not be here next season. Stack as much volume as you possibly can for the remainder of this season so you have a clear picture on who to bring back for next year and or who to potentially look at as a solution. So macro perspective, I'm excited to see how it turns out. Again, the Sauce Gardner trade was made for these first round picks. 2 first round picks it's such a luxury, right? And then kind of the throw in bonus, Adonai Mitchell. Hey, let's take a chance on a massive position of need with a high upside guy who hasn't really had many opportunities to shine. Let's see if he works out. Up to this point, he has been, in my opinion, an upgrade over what we currently had. And I think, again, that upside is on display. In regards to John Metchie, let's clear a bunch of money with Michael Carter. Let's slightly increase the draft position. Let's take a chance on John Metchie, right? 1 year kind of flyer, restricted free agent. Again, not much talent at wide receiver, not much depth at wide receiver. Let's add Metchie into the fold, see if he can provide a spark, see if he can, show something here. I mean, the guy's 24, 25 years old. Let's see if he's got something kind of as a throw-in of the deal. And it turns out in both of these moves, not only are the picks going to be awesome and going to benefit this team, not only is the cap relief going to benefit this team, not only do we already have replacements for both guys, but we're getting these cool young players to kind of load into the roster to potentially grow and see what they have moving forward. So I've been impressed with both guys. I really, really have. And like I said, 6 games remaining. We'll see what happens. I'm hoping that the passing game continues to look like how it did yesterday, where Tyrod had over 200 passing yards. Granted, it's not a massive bar to, hurdle. Based off of what we've seen in the drop back pass game this season. Lots of blame to go around. It's not just on one coach or one player here. But let's keep this up, right? Let's keep this up. I don't want to go through like a 2-3 game stretch where Mitchell's getting 2 looks in 3 weeks. I don't want to go through a month stretch where Metchie has 4 targets. Let's continue to feed these guys. Let's continue to feed them. I don't know if Reynolds is going to be here next season, right? I don't think Lazard's going to be here next year. The Ruckerts of the world. Let's feed the young guys and just see what happens. Give them opportunities to shine. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.